Ilhan Omar is in the hot seat. Have you guys been following this story with Ilhan Omar? If you're watching this show, make sure you subscribe, by the way. You've probably seen some of this. Ilhan Omar is now sort of daring, if you would, a Texas representative to deport her, believe it or not. You know, she did this little thing the other day. Remember, she was given this seminar on how to avoid ICE, and she did it in her own Arabic language, so we won't play too much of it. I'll just show you. It happened, for real.
xildhibaanad Ilhan Omar oo dhowaan la hadashay saxaafadda ayaa talab
So Ilhan Omar explaining to everybody how you can avoid ICE, you have to know your rights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now, you know, she's got this congressman, young congressman, junior congressman from Texas, who happens to be the son-in-law of a good friend of mine, Dinesh D'Souza. And he's like, this is crazy. You know, the country would be better off if she was deported. He said something like that on Twitter. And now it's blown up into this whole thing. And so now Elon is out there on CNN just today saying, hey, you know what? I dare you effectively to do that. She then goes on to call all his supporters xenophobic, racist, etc. You know, same old drill. This is not getting them anywhere. I want you to see it. And I want you to see somebody else's response. Hang on for that. Here we go.
I want to follow up with something else, because we recently had one of your Republican colleagues, Brandon Gill, on the show. He said that America would be better off if you were arrested and deported. He also said that there was audio of you advising what he said are illegal immigrants here from Somalia on how to evade ICE detection. I want you to respond to that.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, these are people who have really stopped caring about our institutions, really stopped caring about our Constitution. We know that folks who are here, whether they are documented or undocumented, we know whether you are a permanent resident or you are a citizen, you have constitutional rights. And it is really important for people to know those rights. I know that it is red meat for his base that are xenophobic and racist to say to them that I am going to find a way to arrest and deport a member of Congress who he thinks is doing something wrong, when I am doing the right thing in trying to make sure everybody that is within my constituency has the resources and the information that they need.
And she was democratically elected by members, by the people in her district.
Yes, of course. But just to follow up very quickly, just be clear, you're not calling all of his base xenophobic and racist, right?
Well, I mean, he is feeding to something. He has a petition out. He's getting donations. That's what this is all about. He knows he can't deport me. There is no grounds for my arrest. So this information is only being put out there by him for a reason, and that reason is because he has a base that feeds off of that.
Okay. So in other words, short answer is yes. Yes, I'm absolutely calling his base that. And I'll tell you, this doesn't work. I want to get back to who she thinks her constituency is in just a minute, because, you know, apparently her constituency happens to be people who are here illegally, and that's who she's trying to cater to. Similar line, right, that we heard from AOC. But first, think about what she just said, calling all of his supporters xenophobic, racist, this, that, and the other. And Van Jones, who also works for CNN, is out there saying, you know what? This isn't working. The Democrats have got to clue into the fact that this doesn't work. Watch him.
Yeah. And then just lastly, Van, in terms of Democrats and where they go from here, this last week we did see them some people try to protest during the president's address, and then House leadership getting on to them, other Democrats calling them out. They still seem to be wandering around trying to figure this out. What's your take?
Can we ask another question? Do I have to talk about my own party? Can we talk about Ukraine or something? No. Look, man, we're screwed. I mean, we don't. No, Democrats don't know what to do. This is a nightmare. You know, somebody like Donald Trump, we thought we'd at least have, you know, Hakeem Jeffries in the speaker's chair to hold him back if we didn't have Kamala in there to do the right thing. Listen, the Democratic Party is going through a massive set of internal crises. You have a party that got trapped two ways. One, defending a broken status quo that nobody likes because they thought that Donald Trump was going to make it worse. But when you're defending the status quo, you're going to lose. And then offending most people in the country calling everybody sexist and racist and transphobic and every other name, and then saying, please follow us. That's not a good strategy, folks. Defending a broken status quo and offending most of the country turns out is not as popular as my party thought it was going to be. And so it's going to take a while for people to get it figured out. I don't like talking about this. I'd rather be beat up. Can you give me something I can beat up Michael about? I don't want to talk about my own party.
I know. It's a tough question.
Tough question. Yeah, tough question. I'm noticing some of you guys are picking up on some challenges with the video right now. Hopefully we get that addressed. But tough question, except that, the reality is you can't continue on. You just can't continue on with this absolute, total nonsense of no policy, but just picking on the other side nonstop. It just doesn't work. Or the name calling, right? This is Ilhan Omar. She's out there saying, well, he's nothing but a dumb. Well, you can read the word, right? He's dumb, and he's a horse as you know what, for somehow saying that she is not doing the right thing by her country. Meanwhile, you heard her say, right, the constituency. I find this amazing. She goes on and on about who her constituency is, and I'm starting to wonder, do they not get it? Remember this part.
We had one of your Republican colleagues, Brandon Gill, on the show. He said that America would be better off if you were arrested and deported. He also said that there was audio of you advising what he said are illegal immigrants here from Somalia on how to evade ICE detection. I want you to respond to that.
Yeah, again, these are people who have really stopped caring about our institutions, really stopped caring about our Constitution. We know that folks who are here, whether they are documented or undocumented, we know whether you are a permanent resident or you are a citizen, you have constitutional rights. And it is really important for people to know those rights. I know that it is red meat for his base that are xenophobic and racist to say to them that I am going to find a way to arrest and deport a member of Congress who he thinks is doing something wrong when I am doing.
So again, getting back to this idea that somehow her constituents are all illegals and she has to defend her constituents as opposed to the people who legally voted for her. Does anybody else find that a little bit troubling? Because this is what I heard echoed by AOC on NPR the other day, saying the exact same thing, effectively, that she's out there defending her constituents. And I was like, whoa, guys, how about defending the people that actually are here legally, that are voting for you legally?
You had a recent dispute, if that's the right word, with Tom Homan, the president's Homeland Security czar, so-called. You held an online forum, a Know Your Rights forum, that he didn't like. What were you doing? What was your goal as you saw it?
My job is to educate and act as a liaison of critical information to my constituents. And I was informing all of my constituents of their constitutional protections, and in particular, their constitutional protections against illegal search and seizure in the United States.
Homan was upset, I suppose, because he felt that you were giving advice to people who were here illegally. Were you?
I was giving advice to all of my constituents. Yeah.
He said he was going to report you, or even that he did reach out to the Department of Justice. Have you heard from the Department of Justice?
I have not, and I intend on reaching out to the Department of Justice to inquire.
Really? What would your question be for the Department of Justice?
Well, there is a member of the Trump administration who is threatening and seeks to open an inquiry, and are you going to do it?
What would you learn? What do you hope to learn from that exchange?
I think it's important to know where this administration stands and if they intend on using political intimidation to silence their critics.
Wow. So she did send, by the way, and we talked about that last week. She did send a letter to Pam Bondi. She's asked the question. I think short answer, and I'm just going to tell her from some of my intel, is that yes, you are actually going to be charged here because, a lot of people have been charged, including one Kathy Hochul, including one Letitia James. That's what's happening.